Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daniel. I work at the YMCA here in the Greater St. John. And today we're going to talk about some initiatives that partners here are doing to address the newcomer employment um, here in the area. I'm going to be joined by Janet Scott, who is the Senior Director for the Economic Development at the Region Economic Development Agency. And I'm also going to be joined by Mike Quinn, who is the Manager of Employment Counseling at Working MB, which is part of the government of New Brunswick. They are going to go introduce themselves once they are going to their presentations. So today we're going to go through the presentations of the three of us, and then we are going to have a Q&A in case you want to ask more about the initiatives that we are presenting here today. First of all, we are in New Brunswick and we are in St. John. This is the first incorporated city in Canada, and we're here in our little corner of the Atlantic in the Fundy Bay. The CMA of St. John, the metropolitan area of St. John, comprehends St. John City, Grand Bay and Westfield, Rosse, Quispamsis, and Hampton. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the YMCA of St. John. We are a registered charity dedicated to strengthen the community, the foundations of the community. We are part of the Y Canada Federation, the YMCA Canada Federation, and our Y specifically for the last 165 years have been represented in the St. John area. We currently have 17 locations across the region, and we work in three main areas. There is the health, membership, and recreation. We also work with childcare camps and after school. And finally, 25 years ago, we started working with Newcomer Connections, which is our settlement agency. Newcomer Connections offers a diverse range of programs and services to newly arrived immigrants. These include English language classes, employment programs, Canadian cultural orientation, immigrant settlement, refugee resettlement assistance, and school readiness programs. We are we representing around 11 countries, and we are making the effort to provide services in a client-centric manner that is inclusive and respectful of the rights, dignity, and diversity of all newcomers in Canada. Our employment team sits on the newcomer programming team, and we offer pre-employment services and employment readiness programs. Talking about our programs, we offer full-time employment training, which is called CELT, the Sector-Specific Employment Language Training. And this training is an 8-week training where participants come for language classes and employment skills classes. So they come for 8 hours a day, and 6 hours a day, sorry, and 3 hours they spend learning English for specific purposes, and in the other 3 hours they learn about employment readiness skills or the Canadian workplace culture. We have around 13 different sectors developed, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about our SDI funding that we received to promote this program. And we also offer in partnership with some community organizations like the local college, the New Brunswick Community College, or the Wood Manufacturing Council. We also have our part-time programs that are called Pathways to Employment. These programs, they provide clients the opportunity to learn the vocabulary that is used to do certificates training, like food safety language or driver's education, but they also can practice and apply the skills before they take the test. But we also partner with community organizations to deliver other workshops or other programs or shorter versions of programs, like the construction and concrete work. This was a 2-week program where they learned language with us around the sector, and then they went into a community partner to learn the practical skills. Some of these programs are co-pay, and yeah, these programs help newcomers mainly to get those credentials that they need. Another initiative that we have is called Skills Launch. This is a youth employability program. It's a hybrid because it comprehends a program and services. It's for newcomer youth from 18 to 29. It is chaired by the New Brunswick Multicultural Council, and it's in action in the three main cities in Fredericton, Moncton, and St. John. Here in St. John, we are the ones who organize and coordinate the program. As I mentioned, this is a full-time program and it lasts 10 months, which include 26 weeks job placement. The other weeks, they also learn employment readiness program, work essential skills, and language for the workplace. We offer also employment services, and we usually start with an intake where we do a needs and asset assessment. We set up a pre-employment action plan, and then we refer as appropriate. We refer either to employment counselors or other community organizations, depends on the needs of the client. We also help them create pre-employment tools, and we also have some programs like the Atlantic Career Loan Fund to help them validate their foreign credentials. At the end, we also do outreach and follow-up. We outreach to employers and organizations. We identify and share job postings. We support employers with staffing needs, and we follow up with clients for troubleshoot. The program that I was mentioning, the Atlantic Immigration Career Loan Fund, this is a regional program, and this allows international trained immigrants to get their credentials recognized in Canada. This loan fund is focused for them to cover those expenses that are involved in the certification process. And this is for permanent residents, and this is across the region, but we here in St. John, we are the ones who coordinate it too. Our employment engagement or employment outreach is we are constantly talking to employers to engage and learn about the gaps within our community and how can we solve them. Last year, we organized this employment engagement breakfast and forum, which invited some members of the community from the local university, the University of New Brunswick, from a big employer, which is JDI, and also from the province working in B. And we talked to employers and learned what were the needs in our community. Finally, we also provide cultural competency training to employers, and most recently, we developed an online suite of modules that employers can take. And we also provide the in-person training, but with COVID-19, we decided to develop an online module suite that would allow employers to take this training at their own pace and in their own times. And the last initiative that I want to talk to you is our SDI project. In 2018, we received the SDI funding to develop a research evaluation project. This evaluation project was focused on our full-time program CELT, and we are evaluating if they are learning the same amount of English as they were in LINK program. So far, we are finishing our data collection period, and our results are very promising. We know that clients are getting the confidence that they need to incorporate into the workforce, and we will publish soon, later this year, the results. That's it for me. Thank you very much. This is my email. I'll put it at the end again. And if you have any questions, you can just either do it on the Q&A on the workshop, or just send me an email. And I'm gonna call Mike because he's gonna continue.
Thank you, Danielle. So I am Mike Quinn. I'm the manager of employment counseling for Working in B in the Southwest region in Brunswick, which includes St. John, Sussex, and St. Stephen. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about some of the services we provide here at Working in B's. We'll talk about individuals first. So when it comes to individuals, really we provide employment counseling, and what that means is we can provide career guidance. So I'm not sure what I want to do. I'm not sure how my credentials translate into the labor market around St. John. I'm not sure if I have a skills gap that I need to go back to school for. So basically anything around career decision making. Skills development is if there is a skills gap, we can help people go back to school to get the credentials they need, to get a degree or diploma they need to get into the workforce. So we have some funding around that that can cover things, for example, as half the tuition, up to $4,000, all the books, travel, childcare, and so on. And then the other thing we help individual clients with is job search, which might be everything from resumes and cover letters to how to do mock interviews or doing mock interviews, prepare for interviews, how to network, and all those type of functions that go along with job search. So it all starts with an employability assessment. So basically clients just reach out to us and it starts with a conversation. We do an employability assessment to see where they come from, what experience they have, what skills they've already developed, what training they may have done. And then we build an employment action plan that meets their individual needs. So all of our action plans are less built around guidelines and policies and more around the individual supports that person needs to move forward and connect with the local labor market. The other thing where we partner with the YMCA and Skills Launch would be our basically experimental learning, which is if someone comes in, they don't have the experience, we can provide some experience with an employer so that they can gain those skills, get their foot in the door with an employer, and hopefully the employer will keep them on. So that's individuals. When it comes to employers, which is the next slide, employers, we offer some services too, mainly around what we call human resource support services. So the same way that an individual will call us, an employer can call us if they're having any type of human resource issue. And they can be from anything from they don't have an HR plan. A lot of small startup companies, for example, do not have an HR plan. We can help them develop that. We can help them with the recruitment that they need if they can't find the people to fill jobs they have vacancies for. And we can help them to be in a better position to keep the people they do hire. So when people come on, they don't leave after a couple months of training. So some examples of that would be, we can provide them labor market information to develop their business plans, marketing plans. We can help them with recruitment at the local, provincial, national level. We have job fairs all across Canada and internationally. We support their training activities and develop customized training plans for them. So if an employer is looking to, for example, if you're manufacturing and you're looking to bring in some new equipment and they have to train their employees, we can help with some of the cost of training those employees. And basically we can help them with anything around the HR, so performance management, hiring, all that sort of thing. So really the next slide we get into is Job Match NB. So one of the ways that we can help employers and individuals is make that connection so that if you're an employer looking for people, or if you're a job seeker looking for an employer, we can help make those connections. We do that in a number of ways, one of which is through our partnerships. We have employment counselors on staff and we have workplace consultants on staff. Workplace consultants work with employers, employment counselors work with job seekers. So there's a lot of communication that takes place between those two teams to help find the right fit for individuals or employers. The other way we can help with that is a program called Job Match NB, which is a website that's based on a platform that was developed through Ryerson University. And it uses technology to match the skills employers are looking for with the skills job seekers have. So we encourage all of our employers and all of our job seekers to register on Job Match workingnb.ca. And then finally, if you're looking for work in New Brunswick, another website which is great is NB Jobs. NB Jobs has all of the jobs that are available. You can narrow it down by city. So for example, in St. John right now, there's probably 290 jobs on the board. They range everywhere from entry-level positions at supermarkets all the way up to professions in the healthcare field, like nurses and LPNs. So all that information's on there. But the other great thing about the website is that it has all kinds of labor market information. It has all kinds of information on resources for newcomers, students, job seekers, and a whole lot more. So it's a kind of a great one-stop shop if you're looking to see what the labor market's like in New Brunswick. And if you're looking for what supports are available in the community, I would advise you strongly to go to JobMatch or nbjobs.ca. And finally, if you want to find out more about our department, just go to workingnb.ca. It has links to NB Jobs, it has links to jobmatch.ca, but it will explain to you what we can do for employers and individuals looking to find work in our labor market in St. John. I'll hand it off to you, Janet.
Okay, thank you, Mike and Daniel. So I'm Janet Scott. I'm the Senior Director of Economic Development for the new Regional Economic Development Agency for Greater St. John. And I'm also the co-chair of the local immigration partnership for Greater St. John. And it's in this capacity that I'm speaking today. We launched a pilot project just recently, and the local immigration partnership training and employment working group just started about 2 years ago. And so we took on this project that I'm going to speak to you about today. When the group got together, we realized we needed to, to speak to the problem that we were facing as a community, and that would support newcomer employment in our community. And so in St. John, we have a really interesting population growth challenge. We were the only CMA in the entire country in the last census that showed a population decline. So that was something that we were really concerned about. And when we were looking at our newcomer retention numbers, they weren't where we wanted them to be. And we also recognize that we have a changing labor force. So from an economic development standpoint, which is certainly the background that I come from, we needed to think about how we were supporting newcomers in finding employment and in retaining employment. And so we went through an exercise where we identified a priority for our working group. And that priority was to address employers' willingness and openness to hiring immigrants. And in doing so, recognizing that we needed to provide them with some tools and resources to hire and retain newcomers effectively. So that led to the program that I'm going to speak about today, which is called the Newcomer Employment Champions Program. And this is a really interesting program that was based off of anyone who's familiar with the Bow Valley Workplace Inclusion Charter. It was our inspiration for this program. We did make some changes. The Bow Valley Workplace Inclusion Charter speaks about commitments, employer commitments. And we wanted to use the language that employers understand. So we talk about best practices. So we've put together a series of best practices that we encourage employers to use to create a more inclusive and welcoming work environment. And on this slide, you can see we have both a website and a digital program guide that is available for employers to use. The program is based, as I said, on best practices that are according to 3 different themes. So those themes are community connections, onboarding, and workplace inclusion. So those are the categories that those best practices fall within. Within community connections, there are 4 best practices, and we describe community connections as the actions and resources employers can offer to help newcomers settle and integrate more quickly into the community. Onboarding are those actions an employer can take to ensure newcomers feel welcome and supported within the company environment. And then, of course, workplace inclusion. There's 3 best practices, and there are actions that celebrate diversity and create a more inclusive work environment. What I want to do now is I'm going to walk you through. I wish that I could pull up the website and walk you through it. But what I'm going to try to do is give you an example of how an employer might use the guide. So we're going to focus in on the community connections stream. There's 4 best practices. So in the next slide, you'll see the best practices we have 4 of them outlined here. There's community support services, community impact, settlement resource referrals, and spousal and family support. So in both the program guide and on the website, you would see each of those listed, and then an employer could click on one of them. It would drop down, and you would see a description of what that best practice is, and then the tools and resources that are associated with the best practice. I'm going to try to show you that as a series. So one example would be community support resources. So here you have the description of what that best practice is, that it's to provide settlement and integration resources to newcomer employees to increase awareness of the local services available to them, as well as important information about living in St. John, New Brunswick, and Canada. So then again, further, you would actually have access to the tools and resources that help the employers implement those best practices. We felt it was really important that if we were going to recommend best practices to employers, that we also provide them with as many tools and resources as possible to help them in that implementation. So here you see, and I have an example on the screen, that one of the tools is a website about living and working in Greater St. John. So by clicking on the hyperlink, the employer can go directly to the website and can provide this information to newcomer employees. And then there's a list of other tools and resources. So this would exist for all 14 of the best practices. I mentioned a website. We are in a challenging situation in St. John right now. Any of you who followed any national news may know that the city of St. John faced a pretty significant cyber attack in November, and the website was hosted by the city of St. John. So at this point in time, the website is not available. We do have the digital program guide, but we anticipate, we've been told this website will be back online within a couple of weeks. So the web address is listed here for anyone who would like to take a look at it. We developed it in such a way that it would be really easy for the employers to navigate and very quickly get from the category of best practice they were interested in to the best practice itself, and then to the tools and resources, and that they could share this also with employees within the company and with managers. I don't know how many of you who might have a PDF document, and that PDF document sits on a server somewhere and isn't well used. But we did create the PDF guide because there are some people that like to sit down and read through things. So everything that is on the website and more is in I think it's a 40-page program guide. This we sent through, and it would be available to everyone. So all of the information related to the 3 category streams, all of the best practices and the tools and resources that we've used are all available for you to take a look at, and how we set it up. We also thought it was very important that we be able to speak to the employer benefits of participating in the program. Employers are challenged for time and need to understand very quickly what the value is. And so within the guide, we've also identified that there are multiple ways in which employers benefit by creating a welcoming and inclusive environment for everyone, and especially for newcomers. We've also we took it a step further, and we want to recognize those employers that fully implement to the best of their ability those best practices. So again, we've just launched this program we've launched it in 2020. We're in the pilot phase of the program, which I'll speak to in just a moment. But once we officially and publicly launch this to the community, we will be monitoring those companies that are actually implementing the program, how they're implementing it, and then we will have 3 awards that we will give out at the end of the year. So as I mentioned, we're currently in the employer outreach phase, and we have 8 companies that have signed on to participate in the program. We walked them through all of the best practices. They're very appreciative of the way in which it was laid out and the resources that were available to them. We've gone back, and obviously COVID-19 created some challenges for employers where they were pulled in many different directions, and in many cases weren't necessarily doing the same level of hiring that they might have in the past. That being said, we have very committed employers that want to look at implementing this effectively. What we've learned through the pilot phase is that not only do we have to provide the employers with the resources to support the implementation, but we actually have to support the employers in the implementation. Basically, what that means is, left to their own devices, this is a great tool that they'll go to occasionally, but they need some training and some thought in how to actually implement it and get managers and CEOs and everyone involved and engaged and committed to the implementation. So we're going to be doing a couple of things over the next few months. We're going to be setting up that training program for employers to fully implement the program. And we're also creating a newcomer HR forum where, above and beyond like looking at this as a tool, but allowing those employers to come together to talk about how they're implementing this program and using other resources and share those best practices that may be above and beyond what's actually in the Newcomer Employment Champions program. So this was a true community collaborative initiative. These are the organizations that were involved in developing the program and are still involved in its implementation. Really great collaborative effort. Anytime you get this many organizations involved, it often takes a little bit longer than you might think, but you get that full commitment and buy-in. And we have fantastic organizations involved in the Employment and Training Working Group for the Local Immigration Partnership, who are all committed to supporting employers in effectively hiring, onboarding, and retaining newcomers. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Janet. So now we are gonna go to the Q&A. And well, the first question that I see with 2 votes is, do you have programs helping immigrants to establish businesses, helping with legal advice and support in the process? I think this one is for you, Janet. So do you want to?
Yes, so we have what's called the Business Immigrant Essentials Program. So this is an 8-week program that supports business immigrants that want to start a business and accessing the information and the resources they need to do so. And then it's followed up with one-on-one business coaching. We also have an incubator that's available for newcomers that are launching a business, and they can operate with other businesses out of a center free of charge, with many mentoring and business support services available.
Okay. Thank you, Janet. Then the second question is, currently, how are you supporting employers? So I think Janet talked about that with the Newcomer Employment Champions Program, and Mike with the workplace consultants. So if you want like a specific, or you're interested in a specific initiative, you can just maybe reach out to us, type us another question. Then the next one, how do you address challenges related to managing multiple communities? Do some communities participate, engage more with the programs, and then benefit more from them than the others? So I can speak a little bit about this. We don't really see that many division in our communities here in St. John. Our newcomer population is still small relatively compared to the larger population in the city. Most of our programs are accessed by all the communities. We don't see a difference in which community access more, of if there is any difference between them. We do see large communities of certain specific parts of the world. Obviously, from the Syrian response, we had a big influx from Syrians in 2015, and we also have a lot of Chinese clients, but we don't really see challenges around participation or engaging from different communities. I don't know if any of you want to add anything else.
I concur, Daniel. Like, we don't see a big difference between the communities. Not at all, really. If I speak, yeah, it seems to be pretty open amongst all of our newcomers.
Thank you. And then next one, what employability assessment tools do you use, and at what intervals do you assess the success rate? So I don't know if you want to talk about this, Mike.
So employability assessment tools kind of depends on the individual. So everything we do is individual based. So the first employability assessment basically starts off with just a conversation. So tell us about your work history, tell us about your educational background, tell us about your settlement services here in Canada, things like that. So we kind of get the whole picture of the individual. And then we kind of talk about what they're looking to do. So what's their career goal? And we're huge on career and not just on finding work, because we want people to be happy with their job choice. So career is very important to us. So it depends then on how lost or how far the individual has gone down the path to look at that career. So some folks come in and they've got a lot of the research already done. They know exactly what they want to do. They have a plan in place, and they're just looking for help to make that plan happen. So we're not going to make them go through a number of assessments just to verify that. While other people will come in and they're completely lost. I have no idea what I want to do. Maybe they don't have any skills. I don't even know where to start. So in those cases, we would get more into whether it's they're looking at their skills assessment, whether it's looking at their what their hobbies, what they enjoy doing in life, what their likes and dislikes are. So depending on where they're at in that career decision-making process will dictate which assessment tools we use. So like any career development professionals, there are probably 100 different tests and standardized tests and different assessments you can use, but we kind of tailor make it to the client themselves.
Thank you, Mike. On our side at the Y, we right now are conducting like the first intake where we do like a pre-employment action plan, and we set up like what do they want to do, and then we refer either to programs within the organization or sometimes directly to Mike's office because they have all that sorted out, so they just need they go to the employment counselor already. And also, once they participate in one of our programs, we tend to follow up with our clients 6 months after to see where they are, what are they doing, if they got a job in the sector that they were trained for, or if they are still looking for more support. So those are the things that we're doing. We recently, last week, signed a contract with the Immigrant Employment Council of British Columbia, and they're gonna provide us with an online tool that they developed through the federal government called FAST. And this tool will allow newcomers to carry an assessment online for certain regulated professions. And then they can, with this assessment, they can see where they probably have gaps in comparison to their Canadian peers. But this is just something recently that we signed last week, and we haven't starting to use, but maybe it's something that you would be interested. It's from the Immigrant Employment Council from British Columbia. Well, yeah, thank you. Now, next question is how can we have access to the PDFs about the NEC program? I believe that they are in the same website that you are right now. There should be a link to download our presentations and to download the PDF with all the information about the NEC program. If not, you can always send an email to us, and we will provide it to you. The next question is, I was curious about geographical access wise. Are there challenges related to that? Well, I don't know. What, Mike, do you want to start? I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of challenge maybe there. So you want, I don't know.
So geographical, I guess I'd ask for a follow-up question, like what do they mean by geographical access?
I think this is like a follow-up from the first. How did you address challenges related to managing multiple communities? So yes, well, yeah, we are a metropolitan area, but there is a lot of rural areas surrounding St. John. And then, like in our case, due to COVID, we have to pivot most of our programs and services online, and that has helped us to reach these communities that maybe before they didn't have the opportunity to go to our offices in St. John. Even though we have 17 locations, we offer services at certain services at certain locations. Now with COVID, that's something that we have been able to pivot through remote tools. Could be a phone call, it could be Zoom, it could be the use of an LMS. We have access to the New Language Solution LMS Avenue. This is also a federal funded program. And through this platform, we can deliver programs online that people from other rural communities, we have seen that they are starting to take too. I believe, Mike, you have offices across the whole area.
We do. So in St. John, we also have an office in Sussex and St. Stephen. Plus, like you, we've kind of gone a lot virtual. Right up until tonight at midnight, we're in red, so we couldn't see clients face to face anyway. But yes, a lot of virtual. But clients do have a preference to go to an office that's closer to them. And the great thing too about where we live is that it's not that far to get from even one end of the province to the other, right? So I think if you went to the extreme end of the province, it would be a 5-hour drive. But in St. John, most of the surrounding communities are within a 20 to 30-minute drive. So we're pretty close knit.
Okay. I don't see any other questions, but as we mentioned before, our contact information should be on the website. And if you have any other questions, you can reach out directly to us and we are happy to help.